Hello.
Hi.
Kayla Lords.
John Brownstone.
Of Loving BDSM, where we help kinksters like you have happy, healthy power exchange relationships. We're back to answer another question. This week, it's a question from a submissive who's in a relationship, and they have just had a baby, like within the past couple of years. And the question is, how do we get our kink life back? But as often is the case, there's also a little bit more to this question. It's more than just that. Yeah. Okay. Let's get into the question. They say, I have a question with no easy answer. I am happily married with a lifelong partner. He is perfect in every aspect of life. We have a son together. He is a great father to him and a great husband to me. He is supporting in every situation, is very kind and loving, and is always here for us. I'm trying to explain that he is the love of my life. He shows us how happy he is to spend time with us every day. Therefore, I consider myself very lucky, and there is no scenario where I would want to live a life without him. The thing is that I am very much more BDSM oriented than him. I always had a submissive mind, and it is one of my most important parts of my personality. He is, I would explain, is mostly vanilla oriented, but he likes sex very much and likes to see me being satisfied. We already had a conversation about my needs and desires many times, and he really tried a lot to fulfill my wishes. It was never 100%, as he is not a dominant mind naturally, but it was really close to that number. He started to be confident in his role, saw me being happy, and that made him motivated to continue with this approach. We even lived in a 24/7 dynamic at one point. I always initiated every conversation. I explained everything. I helped him to explore this world, as he is kind of shy in this way. But then we had a baby 2 years ago. Since family life is our common goal, and now this BDSM part of our life is kind of not there anymore. We both work, have our business on top of that. We exercise and take care of our household and baby, and simply we do not have almost any time together. And when we do, we use it for rest, since that is kind of essential to survive. We need help to reintroduce this part of our life back. I would say he can very simply live without it, but I'm struggling very much since I don't feel like myself. Please help us navigate through this situation. So I see it's a little bit more than just we had a baby, how do we get our kink life back?
Yep. Right off the bat, I'd have to say, with a little one, seize the moment whenever you can.
I mean, yes.
That's really the only...
Here's the thing. I am so grateful we never tried to have a kinky life while the boys were babies. We didn't even know one another while my children were babies.
That is true.
But here's the thing I know about parenthood. When you have small ones who depend on you to survive in this world, and it's going to sound harsh and it might even sound pessimistic, I'm going to call myself pragmatic. There are certain parts of your life that you are not going to get back to the extent that you had pre-kids, post-kids. Now, you may eventually get back there. You might find some approximation that is equally as satisfying to you. But whatever you had before you had to start taking care of another human life and keeping it alive, you're not getting that back anytime soon. So you're going to have to get as close as you can. And then just the thing I always I feel like I have to remind newer parents, because it's easy to lose sight of this. They will not always be small children who depend on you for absolutely everything. This is barring anybody who happens to have a child who is disabled and will have lifelong needs. That's not who we're talking about. That's a whole different ballgame, and we would never be qualified to talk about that. But if in general you have sort of the typical parental life, however much time you don't have to yourself right now, it will not always be this way. They do grow up. They do become more independent and self-sufficient. Eventually, they get old enough you can just walk away from your whole house and go do something without them. In the meantime, that's when it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult. So I agree with you. You do have to seize the moment. The other thing that I thought of when I initially read this question was, instead of trying to get back to whatever you had pre-baby, start very small. Start with the thing you both, if you can kind of sort of rank the things you'd like to do and that you miss and that were really good for you, sort of pick your mutual top one. The one that you're both like, oh yeah, if we could do that, that would be amazing. And then see if you can break it down into smaller pieces, if you can do it into smaller chunks. Like if the thing you miss were hour-long scenes and kinky sex, it's probably gonna be a while.
Yeah, because the thing is, to get back to what you had is probably not going to be.
I mean,
you're kind of forging new ground and setting up a whole new basis for it at this point.
I mean, the fact that you are exercising, taking care of your health,
Mm-hmm.
working jobs, and you have a business while raising a child. I mean, the fact that you even know your own name is amazing to me.
Right? That's a plateful.
All I did was work and have a kid or two, depending on where I was in life, and I couldn't even read a book for the first 6 years of parenting. So I can't imagine doing all the things you're doing and still trying to have a kink life on top of it.
Yeah.
It is possible. It's just not going to look like what you're used to. I do think there's an extra wrinkle for this particular couple, and that is the submissive partner is much more, what's the word I want? Motivated to make this happen. Whereas their husband clearly will do what makes them happy. That becomes like this great feedback loop of, hey, I like seeing you happy. I'll keep going.
Right.
But with everything going on, I could see them having zero incentive to give extra energy to this, which is two things come to mind. One, we've already mentioned. Start with the thing you mutually just really enjoy together. Because if you are going to lose sleep, give up rest, hire a babysitter, call grandma, like whatever that looks like for you, right? To get some time together, make it worthwhile. The other thing, though, is I can see this struggle coming if it hasn't already, and that is one partner is really motivated and the other partner is not, and you're both exhausted parents. And the thing I was thinking of was, instead of the husband trying to be a dominant when that maybe is not who they are, I was thinking about, what if they embrace the idea of being a service top? It's not necessarily an innate role. It's not necessarily part of their personality. But if part of what they enjoy doing with the submissive partner here is providing the pleasure and making sure they're getting what they need, I think role is much less important than doing the thing, Because I'm thinking of the exhausted parent, the overworked parent, the overwhelmed parent going, I cannot see how we forge ahead with what we had before. There's just too much else now going on. And so that now maybe I don't feel like I have the energy to be a dominant partner, to try to do 24/7 again. If it's not an innate part of who they are, I would not try to put them back in that category of dominant again. I would go, let's throw the labels out right now. Can you be this for me? And then maybe do some, a little bit of research and education on what it means to be a service top. And if that resonates with them, that might be easier to embrace.
True.
And then if you've got a partner who is embracing this idea of what they can be with you in this kinky relationship, then you've got somebody with a little bit of enthusiasm who's like, hey, wait, no, I'll give up sleep for this. I'll move around my day and my schedule for this. Let's make something happen here. Yeah. The other thing, and I think we've said it a few times in the past when we've talked about this, to the extent that you have access, lean on your community/village. Takes a village to raise a child. Not everybody has access to that. We don't. I haven't had anybody who, not that we have kids who need watching anymore, but I haven't had access to somebody who could just easily watch it ever. I never lived near my mom while the kids were young. Their biological father's parents were across the country. We didn't really have that. We had to pay if we were going to get...
My mom did a few times.
Yeah, a couple of times, but it wasn't like a regular thing you could count on, right?
No.
Thankfully, they age out of that, and then they don't even need babysitters, and life is good. But if you can in some way secure childcare, person you trust to babysit, family members you trust, maybe they're in daycare, or you have some access to go, here, I'm going to put you with a trusted adult for a few hours. I'll see you later. If you have that, absolutely use that to your advantage for kink. I didn't do this with kink, but I did this as a single mom, and it was delightful. I would take a paid day off of work every once in a while, like a mental health day, or just I had a day off to take. I would send my children on to their normal schedule, daycare, before school care, school, after school care. I never picked them up before 5 o'clock on a normal day. That day I didn't either. I dropped them off at like the 7 o'clock time frame I usually drop them off, and I went and enjoyed myself. I was like, this is me time. And then by the time I picked them up at the 5 o'clock hour, I was pretty rested, and they didn't know that they had missed out on mom. I highly recommend that. If you have access to that as a parent, use that, schedule it, take a vacation day, like whatever kind of paid time off you get through an employer, if that's available. I know it's not available for all employers, I'm aware. Schedule that in. That's your day to get your kink on. That's maybe you only get like half an hour where it's like part-time daycare or something. One of those days, every so often, schedule it, take time off, use it for fuckery. That is it's not easy necessarily, but to me, that's kind of a way that you can have some measure of guaranteed time together. It won't always work out. Something might happen with your partner needing to work. You can't both get the time off. Something. There will always be something. But if you plan for it and make it a priority, you'll get it more often than you won't. And then you get those points of connection where you're not worried, are we being too loud? Am I going to wake up a toddler or something?
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you take, kink doesn't last an hour necessarily anymore. You get 15 minutes and you take those 15 minutes. And this is not the bullshit advice of, sleep while the baby sleeps, kink while the baby sleeps. If you can, great. But sometimes they're like, as they get older, they're playing. You have a monitor, you get 10 minutes to yourself to be like, pull my hair, spank my ass, do something, make me feel away. And you get creative. I would, if your husband was your dominant partner and this is what they wanted, the advice would be, okay, you're going to look for power exchange that's very subtle, that doesn't look like power exchange. No more walking around naked or kneeling naked, or probably not that, but you can do other things. That's not this person's situation. Their partner is going to have it, I think, harder to be enthusiastic about getting back into this because the dominant role is not their natural role. So I wouldn't worry about power exchange unless that's the thing you both crave. If it is, that's fine. Go for it. But if it's like kink activities, kinky sex, focus there first. Focus on the pleasure and what you just super excited when, like, I would kill for some of, like, for me, it would be a spanking, a paddling, a flogging. I'd be like, hit me with something, please. We've only got 5 minutes. I'll take it. Right. Whatever that activity is for both of you combined, that's where your focus should be. And you might only get little bits here and there for a while. I promise they grow up. I promise they don't need you as much. There comes a time. I would never say parenting is easier. It's just different. Like the things I worry about now, nothing like I was worried about when they were 2 or 3. It's just not the same at all. But I now get to expend the mental energy as a parent instead of all the physical energy.
Right.
I'm not changing anybody. Frankly, now that the oldest is out of the house, we're barely driving anybody anywhere because the youngest is like, no, I'm not going anywhere. But there's that part of life where you're basically your kid's chauffeur until they can get themselves around. And, it's just, there's different stages to this, and you will adjust and adapt. If you can build in the habits now and build in the connection that's meaningful to you both, you can get through it and you can find a way that suits your life and however many children you end up having. One or however many. Just know that the more children you have, the longer it is until they're mostly adults. So just
True.
I don't care how many children a person decides to have, but I just know personally, I was very glad to be done at 2. I'm very glad to be on this side of parenting where the oldest is a grown adult and the youngest is like mid-teenage years. Yeah, it's easier to get your kink on that way. Just saying. So yeah, it's not going to be easy.
No.
But if you can find what you're mutually really excited to do, I think it'll be worth it. Yeah. Okay. If you are a kinky parent and you've had to navigate this, please share your experiences in the comments below. I never think that we are speaking for all, kink parents. Never, never, never. I don't like to give parenting advice. It's way too personal. It's way too personal. But we've all had to navigate this in our own way if you're raising children, so feel free to share. If you have your own question you'd like us to answer, we do have a link in the description box below where you can submit that. It'll come to us as an email, and you may hear it answered in an upcoming one of these. If you enjoy this, we love a thumbs up. If you like it enough to want to come back for more, please consider subscribing.
And then go ahead and ring the notification bell to get updates and new content.
Just do what Daddy says. Life is so much easier. You just do what Daddy says. If you really enjoy this, want to help us do more of it, get access to a Kink community through our Discord server, all that good stuff, you can join us on Patreon, patreon.com/KaylaLords. You can join for as little as $2 a month, and the link is also down below.